call the meeting to order. We'll start with a Pledge of Allegiance. I will lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, which is a symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
I'd like to welcome everybody out today. We appreciate you being here. We've got just a couple of short items of business, and then we can get you back to your normal lives. We've got Priscilla Benali on the phone here, so can we please have a roll call, Joe?
Chris Martinson,
Here.
Charles Long, Michael Shaw,
Here.
Priscilla Benali,
Present.
Kevin Mitchell.
All right, we have a quorum, so we'll go ahead and proceed. First item of business is approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
All right, motion.
I'll second.
Second. Roll call, please.
Okay, Miss Benali,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Martinson.
Yes. Can you guys in the audience hear Miss Benali good enough? I turned it up a little bit. Is it all right in here? Yeah? Okay. All right, next item is the approval of our minutes from our last meeting and the special meeting as well.
Motion to approve the minutes of October 3rd, 2022, the regular meeting.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second for that. Roll call, please, Joan.
Miss Benali,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Martinson.
Yes. Next item is the consent agenda.
No.
The special meeting.
Oh, sorry. The approval of the minutes for the special meeting.
Motion to approve
Motion.
the October 17th, 2022 special meeting.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second for that. Roll call, please.
Miss Benali,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Martinson.
Yes. All right, now we're on to number 4, the approval of the consent agenda items. Is there a motion on the table or any questions about any of these? Clarification.
Motion to approve the consent agenda items 4A, 4B, 4C, 4D, 4E, 4F, 4G, 4H, and 4I.
All right. And a second?
Chris, I'll go ahead and second, but I do have a question also.
Okay, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hyatt or Mr. Bonahank, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to pull up the agenda on my laptop, but internet is really spotty here this morning. But I know the consent item agendas, are these the normal annual ones that we usually do? Is there any new ones that were coming for partnerships in our community?
President Mortensen, Ms. Benali, some of them, it's been a little while since they've been approved. For example, I guess if you're talking about a specific one, we can talk about it if you think there's something that's brand new. But I know that there's at least one on here from Chew Sky about the FACE program. There's some of those that have been done in the past, but they haven't been renewed for a while. Assistant superintendents or deputy superintendents, is there any on here that you think that are not reoccurring?
One that is new this year, Mr. Hyatt and Ms. Manuelito, is the approval of memorandums of understanding between GMCS and the New Mexico Public Education Indian Education Department. We are in agreement to house one of their employees in our Red Rock building, and that is something new this year.
Mr. Bell, that's actually, we've done that before, where we've housed employees from PED, so it may look slightly different in the way that the PED is running those employees as far as in school districts, but we've had employees in the district before from PED, so yeah, I don't see anything, Ms. Benali.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Martinson and Mr. Hyatt. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Roll call, please, Joan.
Miss Benali,
Yes.
okay, Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Mortensen.
Yes. All right, that takes us down to our study circle. I don't believe we have any public comment today.
We do not.
Okay, no public comment today, and so we'll jump down to our superintendent's report, item 5B.
President Mortensen, members of the board, we have 3 items today that we would like to do a short presentation on. All of these are just some pieces of data or information regarding Elevate 2025, your strategic plan. And this is just an update and some information about some of the items that are on that plan and some of the progress that is being made or is being attempted to be made here in the near future. So first, we were going to talk about customer service and at least one of the things that we're looking at in order to help the school district improve customer service, primarily for when people, students, staff, parents, community members come into our school or working with each other, and how that we conduct ourselves and how we support them. And so I'll turn the time over to Kaidan Montano and Dr. Ryan, and they are both oversee the personnel department, and they'll talk a little bit about some of the technology that we're looking at to improve customer service.
President Mortensen, members of the board. I have Dr. Ashley Ryan here, who is our Director of Personnel, who is going to be talking about this customer service initiative. This is part of Elevate 2025. One of our goals is to improve customer service across the district. So with that, I'll turn it over to her.
Haven't done this for a little while, sorry. President Warrenson, members of the board. So I'm just going to dive in. I want to value your time, and I'm going to share that I'm going to try not to read the slides to you. That's my goal, because I have a few kind of important notes that I want to talk about that are off of this slide.
Can I pause you for just one
Yes, sir.
second? I just want to make sure that Ms. Benali can hear
Oh,
clearly.
yes,
Can
can
you
you-
hear clearly, Ms. Benali?
It's not clearly, not clearly, but I can hear.
You
I
can hear okay? Okay. Go
I
ahead.
will
Please
make sure I
proceed.
speak louder in my teacher voice. So as you all know, in Elevate 2025, a major objective is that we improve customer service to parents, students, community, and staff. We are currently working on rolling out a pilot initiative. I want to make sure that I'm underscoring pilot, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get further. But this is a pilot of this initiative, and this initiative will include multiple layers. So first and foremost, we want to make sure that all of our staff are trained on high quality customer service. And this will be both an initial and ongoing training. So we know that customer service training never stops, and we want to make sure that all of our staff has the training that they need to provide high quality customer service. The next and most kind of important piece of this pilot is that we will be working to collect data of customer satisfaction through the use of a kiosk. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we work through this. And we will also work to gather some baseline data specific to that kiosk. And with that data, we will ensure that we are supporting with intervention. So if we see that customer satisfaction is low or ticking downward, that we're not just letting it sit, but we are creating intervention plans, just as we do for our students, to ensure growth of our staff. So the timeline for this rollout is, I'm putting it down a little bit because I needed to look down. Apologies, and I'm not that tall. So we will be providing, as I said, every staff member in the district with customer service training within the next month, if not sooner. We're currently making sure that we're identifying a platform that will provide high quality training. We will begin the rollout of using kiosks at 4 school sites and 2 SSC departments no later, and I'm highlighting no later, than January 2023. I want to make sure that I share for the board and that we are identifying schools right now to ensure that we are having a city schools, and county schools. And what we're trying to do as we're working to identify those 4 school sites is find schools that have had good feedback, like they're showing good customer service, and maybe some schools that have shown struggles and areas for growth. because we want to ensure that this pilot is not just confirmation bias, but that we are actually gathering data that can help us grow our customer service initiative. So we're still currently doing that. We're combing through the data to make sure that we're identifying sites that have good and some areas for growth, and again, city and county. I do want to name that the personnel department will be one of the SSC departments that pilots this, because we should be the example of high quality customer service. So we will be one of the departments that will utilize this kiosk.
Were you one of the ones that were struggling or doing well?
I don't know, Mr. Hyde. I hope doing well.
I have a quick question for
Yes.
you. I'll jump in here so I don't forget. Okay, so it seems like to me you're trying to gather data from a couple different pools of people, because I mean we do have parents that come here, you know, but really like this is, you know, a lot more staff come here, you know, teachers and stuff like that. And so I would assume you're trying to gather this survey information from staff members, district staff members, and maybe community members that come here to conduct some sort of business or whatever. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then you're mainly trying to target parents at school sites and get feedback from parents?
I think we could say parents, but we should also say students.
Okay.
Students are a great pool to give us feedback on customer service as well at our school sites.
Oh. Okay.
Because we're really trying to widen this. The initiative really is looking for us to gather data and improve our customer service to all stakeholders, including students.
Okay.
Okay? So we will make sure that as we roll out this kiosk, which I'll again go into in a minute, that all of the staff at those rollout sites will be trained in the use of the actual device, and then of course the software that comes with it and the data dashboard. So there's software, so the kiosk is the actual like hardware, and the software is the survey that is utilized, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. And then there's also the dashboard that collects all of the data. So we'll make sure everybody's trained on that. We don't want to roll something out that folks aren't trained on. This next bullet point is just to highlight this is truly a pilot, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But we're going to try this kiosk, not the training, not the initiative, but we're going to try out the kiosk for 3 months to really see if it's what we need. So there was a team identified to start this process, and we looked at, goodness, I can't even tell you, definitely at least half a dozen options out there to collect the data. And we, went through meetings and presentations, and we've come to the conclusion, let's try this out to see if it's going to provide us with what we need. So we will try it for 3 months and see. Anything I'm missing, Mr. Hyatt, before I go to the actual kiosk? Okay.
When you're saying to try this out to see if it provides what we need, what are you hoping to get? Like, what do you need? What's going to satisfy your need of this kiosk?
I could answer that. President Mortensen, we're trying to really get baseline data. We have, fairly anecdotal in some areas and a little bit more hard numbers in others. We're trying to find a consistent way in which when we interact with others from our departments, from our front offices, and our school sites, that we're getting accurate data as soon as possible about how well we're doing. That will allow us to set some targets for growth based off that baseline data so that we can show improvement towards the goal that's outlined in Elevate 2025. And so we don't really, right now, all we've been using for the most part are either paper or online surveys that are sent through email or through text message. This gives us more instantaneous, this is a way for us to get more instantaneous data so we can truly track on the fly of when people are getting good customer service. And so there's a few different ways in which we'll collect that, and Dr. Ryan will talk a little bit more about that. I think it'll become a little bit more clear as we wrap up and then do more
Yes.
questions at the end.
Yes.
That's great.
So this is a mock-up of the kiosk. So this will actually be branded. So right now the picture that I have is just smiley faces, but it will be branded for Gallup McKinley County Schools. And these will be placed at the sites that we identify. They are movable. So there are some key things I want to highlight about this kiosk. They run off of Wi-Fi. And if we lose Wi-Fi, like we did a couple of weeks ago, all of that data is stored on the device, and as soon as internet is restored, all of that data is pushed to the dashboard. So people can continue to come in to our school sites or our sites here and provide feedback to us on the device, and we'll get all that data once a Wi-Fi connection or internet connection is available. And this also, we were concerned about county schools with that, so if there's any hiccups in internet or cellular, they will all be on the device, and we won't lose our data, essentially. They're movable, so if there's a spot in a school site that we place it, and maybe that's not a great site, we can move it around. It's not stuck to anything. And along with this vendor, there are touchless surveys. So QR codes, for example, we could put a QR code in an office. I keep saying the restroom. I keep thinking of like Love's. In Love's truck stops, they ask you a yes, no, right? Is it clean? Do you like it? Well, rather than making somebody touch something after using the restroom, there's a touchless option with this vendor to scan a QR code and take the survey. So if, for example, the kiosk has a queue and there might be a few people and they just need to get out of there, they need to move on with their day, they can scan a QR code. They will get a text message, they will get an email to make sure that we are giving them multiple opportunities to provide us feedback in regard to their customer interaction with our school site or our department. So essentially these are all, the surveys from this will be short surveys with high yield questions. So we're acknowledging that people don't want to take 3 to 5 minutes to do a survey. They want to take at the most maybe 45 seconds to a minute to give us feedback. So they will be short, high yield questions. Essentially, how is your experience? And it will give you smiley faces of a yes, a rating system essentially. From your rating, it will ask you a bit more detailed questions. Folks would have the option of answering those or not, right? They could just quickly say yes or no, it was a good experience or it was a bad experience, and then provide us further details so we can dig in. But there are a lot of great options that this kiosk provides. I can go into that or I can pause for questions. But this is the major highlighted areas that I want to name for this kiosk, and then also what comes. It's not just the hardware. There are other options for us to capture feedback from folks that come into our sites.
And if I could just add, this is just one tool that we're looking at. We're looking at multiple ways in which we can collect data. And on the other side, like Dr. Ryan talked about, is the training that's involved and making sure that we're providing a consistent message that we want staff that are interacting with the public to share, or to how they greet people, et cetera, and how they interact with them so that we can improve our customer service. And so it's not just a device that we're looking at, but this is just one tool that we're presenting to you today of a way that we are potentially wanting to collect data. We'll open up for questions.
Board members, do you have any questions? All right, I'm going to ask some questions. Ms. Benali has some questions. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. I think, first of all, it's very important to research and get data on our customer service for not only our parents, but I appreciate that students are welcome to also have their input in this surveys or data that will be provided. I'm just kind of curious on what kind of questions will be asked, and if I guess this might be a question for Mr. Hyatt, if there are some negativities on a continued individual. Of course, there are times when parents are upset, and we'll probably see bad reviews on an individual or something like that at one point, but if it's consistent of the same name continuing to provide inadequate customer service to either a student or parent, is there a process that we will be looking at to address this negativity of the customer service. So those are kind of my questions. And when we develop a baseline data, what would we continue to do after that? I know we needed to see if we're improving, if we're not improving, or if we're just kind of staying the same. So I just would like to know more, I guess, kind of what the results will be and how will we be combining what this entity of customer service collecting data, and then the other ones that Mr. Hyatt is talking about. You know, he said this is one of a couple, or I think I don't know how many he said, but how are we going to combine those together? Thank you.
Dr. Ryan, let me answer the last questions first, and you can tackle what the questions are going to be.
Yep.
Would that work? So, President Mortensen, Ms. Benali, so yes, I mean, it's just like any other tool that we have, or any other information that we have. If we see a pattern where, I mean, that's what the purpose of this is. First, we haven't been able to really collect good data on customer service, and so this will allow us to gather that and to set those targets that you talked about and that I talked about. But yes, it's not meant just to collect the data. It's actually so that we can monitor it, so that we can effect change for improvement. So, as you mentioned, if you see a pattern in a specific school, for example, where the customer service ratings are lower, then we as a district or as a administration and as a team of people maybe on that school site, we can address that and see what is it that is not happening that people were trained on. What kind of other supports are needed to be put in place at that site so that we can help them improve. And so this is just a data collection effort that allows us to then train, inform, help those who are struggling, and so that we can all grow with respect to our customer service. And so that's really what it's for, not just a data collection, but actually to help us grow. That's what your Elevate 2025 is a target of. It's not just to implement a data strategy to collect, but also to actually improve our customer service. We already use, as I mentioned before, other modes of surveys and things to collect data. We're also looking at potentially some other options on the phone. For example, when we have meetings with parents, we want to be able to then collect data from them about that meeting, whether they were satisfied or not. Maybe it was an IEP meeting, or maybe it was a parent-teacher conference meeting. And so there may be other technologies that do that better than this particular one, but this one may be able to do that also. We're just looking at this one. Really, we got the idea from the DMV. If you go to the DMV right now, you're instantly able to let the DMV know whether that person helping you did a good job or not. That's what this particular device allows us to do as a school district, to find out when somebody came in our school or into our department. We can instantly find out whether things went well. From that point on, then we can analyze the trend data to see if there's room for improvement or celebration. We do have some areas of the district that do really good with customer service, and we can celebrate those also. Dr. Ryan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Hyatt. Mr. Mortensen, Ms. Benali, the questions are actually currently being looked at, right, and vetted. But an example of the questions would be, to start, the individual would come up to the kiosk and they would be asked, please rate your experience today. And they would have smiley faces, 5 essentially. It's a Likert. So, you know, really well, all the way down to really bad. From there, depending on what they select, generally if they selected that it was good, the next question would be, tell us why you came in to visit us today. Were you here for a parent-teacher conference, or a meeting with a counselor, or a meeting with the principal, etc.? And so they would then select that, and then there would be a comment box to kind of tell us more. Was the building clean? Tell us about your experience, and an open comment box. So we're still vetting those, but they're very generally, again, high yield questions. If an individual answered that they did not have a good experience, it would be very similar. What were you here for? Tell us about that experience. And then what I do appreciate from this entity is then they ask the individual who is answering the survey, if it was a bad experience, can we contact you If so, provide us your contact information so that then maybe it's a principal or a director or someone from the department or the school can then follow up with that individual to get more detailed information. So it's not just an anonymous survey for survey purposes, but really how can we get more information? Maybe it was an upsetting meeting and et cetera. So the questions are still being vetted, but it's general customer service, general customer satisfaction questions that you would see from any other entity that does a customer satisfaction survey.
One other thing I'd quickly add, I think we'll take more questions, is there's a level of accountability with this device also, is when somebody knows that they're going to potentially get instant feedback on their customer service, that provides, for most people, an extra motivation to make sure that we're doing the best we can to serve those people in a professional way. Does that help answer your question, Ms. Benali? Did we miss anything?
Yes, Mr. Hyatt. And I think the follow-up with getting the information back from individuals and really researching if what their need was, if it was like what was stated, if it was a negative and the person leaves their contact information. I think asking who would be in charge of that follow-up? Like, would it be someone in central office? Because if it's someone providing the customer service that gets the, like, if how can I say it? Like, where does these go? Like, where does the end result go? Because I hope it's somebody in central office, because if it goes back to the school and there's parents that are saying, for example, somebody at the desk and didn't greet them well or was mean or whatever, does the survey go back to that secretary that's collecting the data and then see their customer service is not up to par? Do you know what I mean? I don't know where the end result goes for this.
Yeah, I can answer that, Ms. Benali. The information will go to central office, and then we can allow access probably to administration at the school site to get the information. They won't be able to change it. Somebody who walks out the door and pushes a button, the secretary, for example, at the school site, is not going to know exactly what that person pushed. And so that data will get filtered, and we'll use it for informative data to help affect change. Now, it does not replace the complaint process. There's an official complaint process, and so this isn't going to get into the nitty-gritty of every single detail of what somebody may be concerned about. But if there's something significant, obviously, then we would take that and run with it to call them back, to try to get in touch with them to help service their need and get an answer for them. So it is not an end-all. It's more surface level, but something that would be more of a disgruntled nature, where they would actually want to put something in writing and give more detail. We would provide a different process for that.
Thank you, Mr. Martinson. I'm done.
Thank you. Any other questions from board members?
I don't have a question, but I think this is really important, and I really hope that things work out to where we're able to use this to collect such data. I know we have various schools that do need extra training on customer service, and this will be probably the best way to find out what schools need it. Thank you.
Mr. Schaaf, anything? I just have a couple questions. I think it's a great tool, this specific tool, and we're excited to see what other things we can do to improve everybody's experience. Just a couple of comments. The fact that it's a point of use, I think, makes it more relevant, because it's it happened just right now, and so it's fresh on the person's mind, and that makes a lot of sense. The person, the customer service agent, for lack of a better term, needs to make sure to solicit those reviews. That's one thing about it, the DMV, every single time, and it's weird, because like it used to be that every story of a bad day I ever had started with, I went to the DMV. But it has truly, it's gotten better. But when they're done, they always say, thank you, can you leave me a review? And they point at the little thing, and you push the smiley face or whatever. And so it's fast, and it probably makes it easier for the customer. One other thing about this tool that I think could be kind of interesting, though, is because it is kind of a flexible custom tool where you can put different questions in there. I mean, you could survey the kids about what they think about lunch, or use it to. I mean, there's a number of things that you can get like a pretty kind of quick information about it. Pretty easy for that reason. It seems flexible, but I am anxious to hear some of the other things that you have too. This is a great start.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan.
Thank you.
Next, President Mortensen, members of the board, we have an update on Project Search and some data around that, which ties into our career pathway, at least in a small area of our district, but an important area of our district. And so I'll turn the time over to Mr. Bell to give a little bit of information. Actually, for the next two items, he'll be talking about this item, and then he'll also be talking about parent-teacher conference data from this first round after Elevate 2025 was implemented, requiring or seeking a 100% participation rate. So, Mr. Bell, I'll let you run with both of those, and we'll take questions at the end of each one.
So Project Search is a project we have going on at the Gallup Hilton Garden Inn and
Put
the
it closer
Marriott.
to your mouth.
Closer to my mouth?
Yeah, right in front. So we can
And the Marriott Springfield, where we have students who graduate high school that have special needs that go in and learn how to work for approximately 1 to 2 years. And once they're completed with that, hopefully they have a job and work skills to be able to be successful in life. So just one of the things that we found out last week from Project Search is they just received their award, which is the picture on the side. It's 100% employment outcome for the 2021 school year. Every single student that they had go through their program was hired. In 2021, they have not received their award, but they've also gotten 100% of last year's students hired, the 2021-22 years kids, and they've also gotten almost half of this year's students already hired. So they're planning to have, by the end of Q3, all the students for this year hired, so they'll get their third award in 3 years.
Do you think they're mainly hiring these people internally, or are they placing them with other companies?
They're hiring internally and placing with other companies as well.
Super.
Yeah. And so they learn to interview in that process. They learn to work with people. They learn customer service. And within that, we have to be very happy with what we have, is we have 100% employment for the last 3 years. So good job to David Palanchat and his team at the Hilton Garden Inn that are working with our students on this project. So thank you guys for any questions on Project Search. And once I get their awards in, I'll bring them in here and show you all.
We'd love to see it and
Absolutely.
make sure and shake their hand and congratulate them. That's as good as you can hope for. 100% employment for those kids. That's what we want.
Absolutely. And one of the things Mr. Schaff talked to me about last year, he and I both went to the awards banquet at the end of the year. Gallup McKinley will be purchasing those meals this year, Mr. Schaff, as you asked. So thank you.
No, this is a great program.
Mr. Martinson,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
what was the last thing that they said that they would purchase?
The meals. They were going to purchase the meals for the award ceremony, the school district, for the banquet.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention about this, I know how important this is, and there's times when before I used to attend the award ceremony at the Hilton Garden. I think I attended 2 or 3 of them, but since then they've always been scheduled the same time as the graduations that we oversee or that we have to attend. And I ran into that like 2 years now, and if there's any way that we could not put those on the days of the graduations of our high school, that would be great, because I think our students in the project or Project Search need to know that we also support them, and that they need to see us there also at these award dinners for them. So I just wanted to mention that if there's any leeway in scheduling that on a different day of our graduations, that would be great. Thank you.
Ms. Benali, we will definitely make sure that happens, and our graduation dates are a little bit different than last year, a little bit later in the year, so it'll make it even more easy to schedule. So,
Thank you. And Mr. President of the board and board members, now I'm going to move on to parent-teacher conferences.
Did you have a question?
Oh.
Kevin?
Oh, go
I'm
right
sorry,
ahead,
Mr.
Mr.
Mitchell.
Yes.
I apologize for skipping.
I was just wondering, what is the number of students that we have? What is the? that
It's
are in
usually
this
8 to
program?
12 students.
Huh?
8 to 12 students
Eight,
that I've
okay.
seen in over the past years that I've been there.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, sorry about that.
To the next presentation.
Yes, please.
So parent-teacher conferences were held on September 12th, 2022, and one of our Elevate 2025 goals is also to improve parent engagement, and one of the goals is to get our parent engagement at these events to 100%. Did we make it? We got very close, but there's still some work to do, and you'll see, and you may ask at the end about specific schools, what kind of interventions. We're working on those right now, but first of all, on the 12th, we had 2 types of parent-teacher conferences. At the elementary pre-K through 5th, we had what we call academic parent-teacher teams, in which the students came in by their grade level, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd. They met with the teachers and just the parents, and the parents were given items that they use in the classroom to take home, and they were taught how to work with their students on specific skills at home that translate into the classroom. And so that's what happens at the elementary level. At the secondary level, we have what we call student-led conferences. And that really places the students at the helm of the teacher-supported discussions. The students are presenting to the teacher and their parents their performance in school. They're talking about their progress in learning. They also presents opportunities for our students to prepare, reflect on, and discuss evidence of their learning, especially when you're going into pathways, being able to do public speaking, being able to explain your learning experiences, being able to talk about your learning experiences is key to being able, some of those soft skills to be able to get a job. And just this is a first step of helping our students be able to do that. So what did it look like at the schools that day? Now, all this did not happen on September 12th. We gave the schools, because not every parent can make it on that one day, we gave the schools until the end of September to complete their parent-teacher conferences. So on the 12th, they went in person. They met during that day. If any parent couldn't make it that day, schools were asked to schedule in times so the parents could make it on a time that was more available to them. Our first school to look at, we have 281 students at Catherine Miller. All 281 students had a parent show up for their conference, 100%. Same thing at Chi Dodge, 188 students. They had a parent for each one of them. Chief Manuelito, it's still pretty high, 97.13. 508 parents showed up for 523 students. Crown Point Elementary School, this was one I was worried about. They made it to 100%. They were at 50 at the beginning of it and made it all the way to 100. Mr. Robinson went out there and had his teachers call. A lot of this was done through phone and online at this school, but he made it to 100%. The middle school and the high school in Crown Point are our 2 lower schools. They are both about 88 and 89%. Those are the 2 areas that I really need to start working on with Mr. McFarland, who's the high school director, and Mr. Wayman, who's the mid-school director. What kind of supports do we need in Crown Point to get it more robust, that parents feel more welcome to come into the school? What's keeping them from coming into the school? David Ski, 99, just 1 student missing. Del Norte, 413, all 100% showed up. Gallup Central High, this one shocked me, 100%. I have never seen that before at Central High. It's usually in the 50s. Good job to Mr. Doug McPherson, who got that up this year. Gallup High, 92.95%. This was one of the ones I was worried about too. They were in the 60s, and they moved themselves all the way up to almost having 672 parents come in for the 723 students. Gallup Mid, 98.11, pretty close. Indian Hills was at 100% with 245 students. Jefferson was at 97 with 423. I thought I transposed those numbers at first, but I did not. Kennedy Mid School was very close to having all of them. Lincoln had all 100%. Miyamura was very close. They were another school that was in the 60s at the beginning of this cycle, and they made it all the way to 98%. Navajo Elementary made 100%. The middle school was at 100%. And Navajo Pine was at 100%. That was our best area overall. Rama Elementary was at 100%. Rama High was 100%. And that's including the mid-school. Red Rock was at 100%. They were our first school to be at 100% as well. Red Rock. Stagecoach, 99.66%. Through Elementary, 97.15%. The middle school, 96%. The high school, 92%. Tohatchee Elementary, 100%. The middle school, 96%. The high school in Tohatchee, 100%. Sagai High School, 98%. Tobe Turpin, 99%. And last but not least, Twin Lakes Elementary, which was 97%. So most of our schools, except for 2, are all in the 90s. Not all of them quite at 100. That's our goal. In the next 3 years, we intend for every parent to have a point of contact by the schools. But how we go about that is still a work in progress. Overall for the school district, we had 97.9%. If you look at this time last year, we are at 74%. Last year was not our best year, but this year is quite an improvement over last year's first parent-teacher conference. And it really was a push by Mr. Hyatt and the ELT and the executive leadership team and the school board about that we really do want our parents to have that one-on-one contact from a teacher to be able to support their students.
What type of an interaction does it take to count in here?
It's anything. The parents can call, and any kind of conversation that the parent wants to have about the student, that can be where the conversation goes.
So if
It
the
could be
teacher
behavior.
calls the parent and is like, hey, blah, 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 2-minute call, and that counts?
That would be able to count, yes, sir.
Okay.
Depending on the robustness, some students are well advanced. They don't need to have hour-long discussions. Others do. It really is dependent on the student and that relationship with the teacher and the parent.
I'd love to hear customer service satisfaction surveys from those parents on
After
on
that.
their interactions with the teachers. I think that would be a really interesting metric to see.
Absolutely. Something for K-Don and Wade and Ashley to work on. But so far, I'm actually much happier. I was a little nervous with these results as they first came out. Mr. Hyatt did give us through the month of September, which I was much happier by the end of September. I know I'll get to keep my job.
Well, I'll give you some feedback.
Yes, sir.
I probably to the disappointment of my son James, I was the one that attended his over at Red Rock with Miss Massengale, and she is fantastic, and it was a good interaction, a positive interaction. So if the thing was here, I'd push the little smiley button on it. It was a good interaction and good to see what they're working on, like physically see, some of the papers and the activities that they're doing, and have her, tell me, I don't know, what it's like to
And
have
she
him in
themed her
class.
classroom really nicely this year.
Oh,
So
yeah,
your
yeah.
kid's in luck.
Yeah,
That's
she
one of the
went
best
like all
classrooms.
out. It's pretty serious.
Absolutely.
Um,
Any other questions from any of the other board members? So we will have our next parent-teacher conference in February, on February 6th. I'm hoping at least the schools to do better than they did this time or remain at their 100%. And so that's our real goal. And my team, as directors of instruction, will be really talking about how can we make it where it's not such a roadblock for parents to come in here. What is keeping those 2-3% of parents from actually getting a hold of them? Having those conversations and seeing what next steps we need to do as a district to build those bridges.
Well, the experience being in person was like, I don't know, it would be like 100 times better than like just a phone call, to be able to sit with my kid in front of the teacher and to like look at the stuff and, see how lousy his handwriting is and talk about that stuff. Like it was incredibly valuable, and it was a much, much richer experience than it would have been, on the phone and stuff like that. So I'm anxious to see this continue to go up, and I'd love to see information on that, what the breakdown is between, an in-person physical meeting compared to like over the phone or an online thing as well. I'd love to see that. I think our parents are missing out if they can't see the teachers in action.
Absolutely. And we just have to also understand parents have very strange schedules. And so sometimes we can only meet them as they call. But the more we can meet them in person, the more I promote that. Absolutely. Thank you.
Mr. Morrison.
Mr. Mortensen.
Oh. Ms. Benally, Mr. Mitchell got you. He's too quick for you. Go ahead, Mr. Mitchell.
My question is, what are the numbers comparing to a phone call versus in person?
So I would have to give you that data. I do not have that right now, Mr. Mitchell. Right now, what I do have, we try to collect the data through Synergy this time. And that was where we were capturing whether it was phone call or in person. Synergy did not work this time, so we did it all by hand. So we were just calling to see if the parents were, hopefully by next time we'll have our system set up in Synergy with all the, we're working actually with their engineers right now to get all the glitches out of it. So hopefully by next time I'll be able to tell you whether it was phone call or in person or even a video conference. Some parents chose that model as well.
Ms. Benali, it's your turn.
Thank you, Mr. Mortensen, and also thank you, Mr. Bell, for this information. I am also curious on the data that my colleagues are asking about for the in-person, online, and telephone that were that were done for the parent-teacher conference. I think one of the things I really would like to emphasize and ask is about our seniors. I think every year we always get some kind of complaint, either as board members or from our schools, that parents are like, we didn't know our child was in this kind of situation that he wasn't going to walk, or and I think with documentation that says, well, you were here, we did discuss this, here's your signature, or here's the sign-in list that provides that you did you did attend this parent-teacher conference, or a separate meeting just for seniors that showed that you're on the track to graduate, or you need to take some Saturday Academy, or something to make up a half a credit. I think we need that support to our academic counselors also. So I just wanted to ask about that, about high school seniors and them getting information, feedback of how they're doing, if they're in the right track to get to graduate and walk.
Thank you, Ms. Benali. Any other questions, board members? Okay.
On the question about the students about graduation, we do audit checks, and they usually start right in November, December on kids that are behind. And Lori Clark, who is our STARS supervisor, she does call the schools, but maybe the documentation process needs to be a little bit more robust in making sure that happens, that I can actually guarantee myself. I agree with you, Ms. Benali. Thank you.
President Mortensen, Ms. Benali, Wade, if we could maybe do a report in December about how many of those conferences, graduation conferences, have happened,
Okay.
and then maybe every month we can give an update on the progress of those, so that the board can be informed how many of those have been completed. But I also just wanted to quickly end with thanking the Board of Education for setting high expectations for the school district. There were thousands of parent conversations and student conversations that happened this first round of parent-teacher conferences because of your strategic plan in requiring or shooting for 100% participation rate. Again, we were probably in the 50-60% range on average in the district. To go to an average of approximately 95% is significant. And again, the most important part about that is that more conversations, more communication between students, parents, and teachers, and schools. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. All right, we'll move down to the next item is notices and communications. I'd like to draw your attention there for some of the events that we have coming up, our upcoming board meetings, end of the quarter, winter break. My favorite holiday is Thanksgiving. That's on there. And then we'll move down to number 6, new business. Mr. Hyatt, I'll turn the time over to you for number 6A, please.
President Mortensen, members of the board, in your packet, you were provided early on to give input on graduation dates for 2023 graduates. And so those are before you at this time. I think I've already answered all the questions that I could answer on those, but if anything's come up since last time we communicated, we'll take those questions now. If not, I would propose that this be approved.
Board members,
Mr.
any
Mortensen,
questions?
I'd like
Ms.
to
Benali.
I would like to motion to approve the graduation date for 2023.
All right.
Second.
Second by Mr. Schaaf. Roll call, please, Joan.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Benali,
Yes.
Mr. Schaaf,
Yes.
Mr. Mortensen.
Yes. All right, that was easy. Now we just have to make sure the state doesn't schedule the track meet over us or something like
No,
they like to do.
the state meets are already scheduled, and so we have learned the hard way. But make sure that we do not schedule those on top of those athletic or other types of events. So this actually, the way these dates are, it actually helps us avoid, if not most, if not all, of anything that could potentially happen.
No, I want to clarify. They scheduled it over us.
Okay.
We had ours in the books first.
Yeah.
Drama. All right, the next one is 6B. Mr. Hyatt?
President Mortensen, I'm going to turn the time over to Kaydon Montano, Assistant Superintendent, to talk about a new MOA that was not on the consent, but is actually here for action. And so, Ms. Montano.
President Mortensen, members of the board. Today we want to talk about sexual assault services of Northwest of New Mexico, Gallup, who will provide services to our mid and high schools with an awareness of sexual assault. And today I have Jill Draven, who I'd like to come up, who's going to do a presentation about what this is going to look like in our schools.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Hello, everyone, board members, President Mortensen, and everybody else here. My name is Jill Draven, and I work for Sexual Assault Services in Northwest New Mexico. We are located here in Gallup, down on First Street. We are a nonprofit organization that provides free and confidential services to those who've been affected by sexual violence, whether it's the past or whether it's the present. We provide crisis intervention. We do have a SART team that responds to, we respond to the hospital, Rehoboth, and GIMC when assault takes place. We have advocacy. We also provide therapy and prevention education. With our prevention education portion, so for the past 4 years, I've been going into the schools here in McKinley County with the help of Dr. Pauletta White. And what I do is I go into the health classes and I provide Safe Dates. Safe Dates is an evidence-based program. It's a curriculum that educates youth and adolescents on how to identify and prevent dating violence. I cover topics such as healthy and unhealthy relationships and what that all looks like, the different types of abuse. We talk about the cycle of violence. We talk about red flags, gender stereotypes, and sexual violence. And we also talk about how to help our friends and family members that are going through whether it's domestic violence or sexual violence. I also have a contract with the McKinley County DWI program, and that lets me talk about alcohol and DWI. And with that piece, we discuss statistics when it comes down to drinking, men versus women, and the long and short-term effects of alcohol, and of course the prevention of drinking and driving. And then we also talk about what DWI is and the expenses that come along with it. During the course of these presentations, I use examples, and I also give real-life scenarios. Of course, I don't use any names. And so with that, it gives the students a feel of what that looks like. And then also, we do get questions from the students. The questions they ask, I don't ask them to put a name on the piece of paper. I pick up all the questions and I answer them at the end of the presentations. And the students, they like it. They really enjoy it. They're part of this discussion. They enjoy the conversations regarding all the stuff that we talk about. So yeah, so that's what I do.
Thank you. We appreciate you and appreciate the work you've done in the school district. Members of the board, do you have any questions, comments?
Ms. Benali, do you have any questions? All right, I have a question.
Thank
Where-
you, Mr. Martin.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I don't have a question, but I know this program is needed within our schools, and I'm just thankful that we are implementing it. At the community center, we are also very fortunate to work with some of the entities that she mentioned. So thank you very much for providing these services within our school district. Yeah.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
So you have these services that you offer. How is it that the word is out there to our students to be able to, seek help, or these presentations that you're talking about? When and where are they, and what do we need to do to make sure that that we participate?
Okay, so usually how it works is I'll reach out to the schools and I'll speak with the school counselor, which sets me up with the health teacher, and we schedule dates where I come into the classroom, like let's say Monday through Wednesday or Monday through Thursday every day, and we go over these topics. So that's typically how it works.
What types of classes do you usually visit for this presentation?
The health class. It's mainly in the
classes.
health class, yes.
Okay. I mean, is that good enough, do you think, Mr. Hyatt, getting the word out to everybody that this stuff is available, or is there more that we can do to, make sure we're helping out our kids that are, prevent this, or if they unfortunately have had this type of an experience?
President Mortensen, and maybe there is, and I don't know about the information about how you get other information out. Like this, is there like a hotline or anything that you give out? I think that's what Mr. Mortensen's asking. We do do the classes and the presentations. And that's really what the MOA is built around. But I believe that you also provide other resources that we do share with students, so they have access to other services if needed. Is that accurate?
Yes. So during the presentations at the last day, I hand out resources. So I hand out a packet, and on the last page, we have all the resources here in McKinley County. I list them on there for battered families, DWI, the crisis hotlines, the suicide prevention hotlines, and as well as our sexual assault services. We have flyers. We also pass that out. And during the course of the presentations, we welcome students to come and speak with us if they want after class.
I think maybe what we could do a better job out on our end is getting those resources and making sure they're available to all students, since they're not all taking health at the same time.
Yeah.
That way it's not one time in 4 years that they have access to that information. And maybe that's what you're alluding to, is making sure that all of our students have access to the information, even though they may not be getting that particular presentation that year.
Yeah.
If that works for you, and even if we had to purchase or print those materials, we'd be happy to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's exactly what I'm after. I just want to make sure that the information is out there to the people that need them the most. So great. I don't know if we have any other questions. Any other questions? Well, I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve a memorandum of agreement between Sexual Assault Services of Northwest of New Mexico, Gallup, and Gallup McKinley County Schools.
All right. Second, please.
Second?
Second by Mr. Mitchell. Roll call, please, Joan.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Benali, Ms.
Yes.
Benali, okay. Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Mortensen.
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our business today. I will
Motion to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Thank you. And a second.
Second?
Second from Mr. Mitchell.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Benali, Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Mortensen,
Yes.
Ms. Benali,
Yes, Joe. Thank you.
1:59.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.